Welcome back to the season podcast, our newest season, in fact. And if you haven't guessed by now, you're not really from Bangalore. Today, I'm really lucky to be joined by Mr. Arun. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for having me on your
Lovely.
podcast.
Of course. No, it's pretty exciting way to start the podcast as well. Can you tell us about where we are exactly?
So we are at Wonderla, Bangalore.
Yeah.
It's our flagship amusement park. We have 4 parks in this business, but this is our one of our biggest parks. We've been here since 2005. It's an amusement park, water park, all rolled into one. We've had almost 40 million visitors all across our 3 parks, including our 4th park we just opened in Bhubaneswar. So this is a business that we've been doing for the last, almost 20 years now.
20 years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, welcome to Recoil. This is our biggest ride in Bangalore.
Okay.
It's a reverse looping roller coaster. It's made in the Netherlands. We've had it since 2017. It's the most popular ride here. We always have look at the size of the queue. It's like
I can see
at
that, yeah.
least usually people wait for an hour to get on the ride.
An hour. Wow.
If there is it's a crowded day.
Right.
And we also have the GoPro photos from this, like if you want to, on video.
Do a lot of people go get the photos, you think? How's that?
Yeah, we do get a lot of people because it's hard to take. You can't take with your phone or anything.
Sure,
You want that correct expression, especially when you're falling down the hill.
Right.
I think you need to get the GoPro photos. So we get a lot of.
That's really cool. And how many people on average say do this ride particularly?
I would say I think almost 30% of our 30 to 40% of our visitors go on the ride.
Okay.
Others don't for various reasons.
Right.
People don't like thrill rides yeah. So this is what's definitely our most popular ride.
Okay.
And you can hear people screaming all the time on it. There's this ride called Insanity. Have you been on that?
I think that's the old.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Been there since 2005.
Right.
And beyond that is the water park. So you can.
Okay, I feel like. What is generally more popular between the water park and dry rides, let's say?
People tend to do both in Wonderla. That's why we have both.
Okay.
And it's in one ticket. And most people come and do the dry rides first. And then they want to come and do the water park in the evening after having lunch.
Okay.
They do all the thrill rides before lunch, and then they'll do all the
Go to the water
chill
rides.
stuff later. That's at least what we've seen.
And what about this ride? I remember this one actually. I have vivid memories of sitting
The
as a
pirate ship
kid.
is a very classic amusement park ride.
Right.
We've had it since the beginning.
Right.
This is one of the rides that we made here.
Oh, you made it over here as well.
It's made in Bangalore.
Do you usually buy the rides from different countries, like you were saying, Netherlands and Germany?
Yeah. So some of the rides are like, most of the big thrill rides are imported.
Okay.
The ones which go upside down.
Right.
But all the simpler ones like this, we make like a Ferris wheel.
Okay.
Was made by us.
Oh, okay.
It's a slow ride. It's not very complex, but it is a big engineering challenge to
I'm sure.
build the sky ride on top of it. But so that was a challenge for us to install the ride on top. But as a ride, it's not a very
challenge.
Scary ride.
Okay.
So
I think that's a trademark of yours as well, right? The Ferris wheel being there.
yeah, it's on our logo and everything.
Right. That's really cool.
Then there's this ride called Ice Cream. Again, this is I think imported from Italy.
Oh, okay.
This has also been there since 2005
Okay.
from day one. And but over the years we keep maintaining and changing parts. So practically it's like a new ride now. I mean, every few years we change all the parts, the locks, all the hydraulics, the motors, everything.
Would you say most amusement parks get all of their rides from different vendors?
Yeah, I think so, because it's hard to kind of build everything on your own.
Right.
So usually we end up buying from Europe.
Okay.
There are a lot of companies in, especially in Italy and Germany.
Okay, that is
Make
famous
these
for.
kind of rides. Yeah. So even if you go to Disneyland or any other big park, they still use the same manufacturers to make their rides.
And if you had to put an approximate, say like a benchmark or a price tag on what the average ride would cost, what are we looking
These are, I mean, when we bought them, they were obviously cheaper. But now I think in present day money, each should 15 crores.
Okay.
The roller coaster, a new one will cost about 50.
Wow.
50 crores. So it's a very
That's
expensive.
including everything, including getting it
Yeah.
delivered and built here.
Yeah. So the transportation is also very expensive.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and takes a lot of time because you need to charter a few ships to
Really?
bring all the parts.
Okay.
They won't fit inside a container.
Right.
So you literally have to.
So you can only
Charter.
bring them by sea, I imagine.
Only by sea. Yeah. But these smaller ones, they are containerized.
Uh-huh.
So they come in containers.
Okay.
That's easier to, bring.
Mm-hmm.
But importing is always tricky because it takes a lot of time. So
And
we try. One of the things that we do as a company is we try to whatever we can do here, we do ourselves.
Okay.
Because it gives us a lot of flexibility in making cheaper also. But of course, focusing on safety and in all the standards, we follow the same standards that they follow in Europe.
And you guys have your go-to vendors when it comes to these like equipments or rides in general?
Yes, we work with a few companies, and they're like our preferred vendors, and then we keep buying from them.
Okay.
Yes, you said this is your favorite, right?
Yes.
This has also been there since the beginning.
Uh-huh.
It's a roller coaster which falls into the water pool and then creates a big splash.
Right.
It's one of our most popular rides. I think after Recoil, this has the biggest queue.
Okay.
You'll wait for at least an hour to get on. Again, you'll get a very beautiful splash. So that's the whole. And this is a camera which takes pictures and you fall. And then it gives you that flash. And
Wow. Having water rides.
cleaning the water is the biggest concern.
Okay.
When we have water ride. Because especially on very busy days, thousands of people use the water. So cleaning it to a standard that we like is always a challenge. But we have, over the years, we have kind of perfected it. We know what to do.
Right.
And also, depending on the crowd, we add filters to the pool.
Okay.
So sometimes we can clean it. When it's less crowded, we use less filters to clean the pool. But when it's more crowded, we can add more filters to the system.
Okay.
We have stuff like that which kind of helps to kind of manage the crowd.
Right.
Also, we do rainwater harvesting. So a lot of the water that we see here is all lower, like it's from the rainwater that we collect here. We have a large lake outside.
Right.
From using that, we collect all the rainwater.
Well,
And then you can use the power on that water.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think I was reading somewhere that you guys are completely sustainable.
Yeah, so we don't you don't discharge any effluent, any kind of pollution.
Right.
We are completely non-polluting, and we also recycle all the water that we use.
Okay.
Every drop of water that we have here is all recycled,
Understood.
and drinking water is fresh water. But everything else is like recycled.
I did see a lot of solar panels as well on top of the buildings when you're on the platform.
Again, so the entire electric load of the power, about 50% of that is completely solar.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's the maximum that the government allows you to do.
Only 50%.
Yeah. Because they also are the lose revenue.
I'm sorry.
So the maximum amount that you can save, we do solar.
That's really cool. Does it like consume a lot of electricity, like running the park and the rides?
We use a lot of electricity because the rides, they have these big motors and everything. So a lot of pumps for the filtering water.
And when you include the rooms and all that, so it
They
also.
use a lot of power. So I think using solar power is definitely useful for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I want to talk to you upcoming as well when you do. But when you source things at such a volume, right, in such bulk as well, I'm sure there's a different way that you go about things in general, right? Like preferred vendors and all these things as well, right? But in general, how would you describe your leverage would be when it comes to like being able to source in bulk?
I think because now we have 4 parks and building a 5th park, and we have a long-standing relationship with the vendors. They give us some preferred pricing, or it could be even just food. Like we source a lot of food, and I think we are probably one of the largest buyers of Coca-Cola, for example, or ice creams, right? Like a lot of people buy ice cream when they come to an amusement park. So all the fast food that people tend to consume, um, we end up trying to negotiate better rates, and also we want to make sure the quality is also good.
I'm sure, yeah.
So it's not only about the price; it's also about the quality for us. And because we take in bulk a lot of these things, I think it's important for us to have reliable vendors. Otherwise, it's an issue for us. Yeah. So now we are at the resort, away from the buzz of the park. This is where we get a lot of corporate guests and come and stay here. They don't want to spend a noisy day at the park.
Right.
And also a lot of family come and stay here. We have about 84 rooms here, and we've had it for about 11 years now.
Okay.
And we are also adding some more rooms.
Yeah, I did see on the back.
Building some rooms, more cottage style rooms, because we felt that 84 rooms is too small now. So we are slowly trying to expand, and we also have a larger event venue where people want to do like meetings or
like an event hall almost, or something.
Those kind of things. So we have all that now.
Okay.
So slowly expanding into this the hospitality side as well.
Do you usually see the rooms getting filled over here?
Yeah. During the seasons, it gets sold out very quickly. But then there are times when it doesn't get sold out also. Like now it's off season, so it doesn't get fully sold out.
Okay.
But that, I think, is part of being in the leisure segment, and it's always a fluctuating demand. And but that's part of the deal. But it's a good part business to be in.
So it changes. It's cyclical, right? There's demand in some parts of the year, like you were saying earlier. I think Diwali, Dussehra time is where.
So I think what happens in our business is, because we are young people are the drivers for our business, their holidays and everything kind of determines our busy and lean times. So anytime there's like exams and all that, our numbers go down. But at the same time, when we have big holidays like your Dussehra or Christmas, New Year or summer, that's when we get our peak footfalls, both at the resort and at the park.
Okay. Yeah. And this is across all 4 of your locations pretty much?
Yes, all 4 are very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
and you were also telling me how you intentionally choose locations that are quite isolated, that are near foresty regions and such.
Yeah, because we feel like it's a place where people come to like get out from their normal lives. So we want it to be like a beautiful surrounding. We don't want it to be in any industrial area with a lot of buildings and factories around. So we want it to be like far away from everything else.
Right.
So that's why we choose places like this. The other reason is cost, because we need large amounts of land. So, these kind of properties are easier to find. Actually, they're not easier to find. They're cheaper, but they're harder to find like a good property. But I think for our business, this makes perfect sense.
Makes sense. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly go back to the inception of Wonderla, right? I wanted to know more about the backstory, how exactly it started as Veegaland, I believe. And I think very early on, at what point you exactly decided to get on board and completely active in this role?
So the idea for building an amusement park came from my dad in the late 90s. So my dad is and also an engineer, and he has a pretty large consumer durable business. It's called Veegaland.
Yes.
Make voltage regulators.
I think it's a household product for sure.
It's been there since the 70s. So it's a very old business. It still continues to be the larger business in our group. But at some point, I think he wanted, and he loved construction. So at some point, he wanted to do something other than just building stuff and selling. So he wanted to actually make, like big buildings or something. He wanted to build stuff in the cities that he lived in.
Right.
And one of the things that we used to do those days was, we started traveling abroad to like Singapore and US, and we saw all these beautiful parks, and we wondered why nobody's doing a job in India. And so that was the reason why he got into it. And I think the more he researched it, he realized this is also an engineering challenge. It's not like running a resort. There's a lot of engineering involved in the business. I mean, actually making the rides, designing it, and like we just spoke about, it's like a small city. Like we have to design the city and then build it.
Yeah.
So I think he started out doing that, and the first we used to have this rubber plantation outside Cochin,
Okay.
which was just an investment that my dad made. And then he converted that into our first park, which was called Veegaland. It took him 4 years to build it, even though it was like tiny compared to what this is right now. Because, there was a lot of trial and error, made a lot of mistakes. That's how we also started getting into building rides. We figured out that buying rides was difficult.
Right.
Because a lot of these things are custom made.
Yes.
And those days we didn't have the budgets to import them from like Europe and stuff like that. So we started out making some of the rides, including a roller coaster, the Wonder Splash,
Okay.
the Ferris wheel from the first itself.
Okay.
So that's how it started. And I was still in college. I was just finishing my graduation, post-graduation. And
This was in Australia, I believe?
yeah, I was in Australia. I was doing engineering there. Like I was doing my master's. And so once Veegaland opened, it was like a big news and it became a big hit. And then suddenly my dad was trying to expand it very quickly because the first problem we had there was we couldn't accommodate visitors.
Oh, wow.
So the park was designed for like 2,000 people, but on our opening day, we had 5,000 visitors. So it was complete chaos. Like we ran out of food, we ran out of water, we ran out of everything. And so I think that was a challenge that he was trying to solve in the beginning of the business. And within a year, I had finished my studies. And when I came back to Cochin, this is the problem that he was struggling with. And I thought, this is a fun thing to do. And I also preferred, being in a space like an amusement park than to sit in an office and I'm sure design something else. So we thought, this is something. And so when I came into the business, we were re-engineering Veegaland into a larger park.
Okay.
There was a lot of work to be done.
Right.
And I think my engineering skills also I got to use a little bit. I did my master's in industrial engineering, which is also facilities design, design of airports and large hospitals.
So a lot of tangents towards.
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarity to.
Makes sense.
So I got to use some of that, and so just. I don't know. I just got into it and I kind of never looked back,
That's really cool. Was the idea of an amusement park unheard of at that point in India?
There were small parks. There were a couple of them in Chennai and there was SL World in Bombay.
Okay.
There was NGM in Chennai.
Okay.
And then there was, I think, Black Thunder had opened in Coimbatore.
Okay.
So, but we felt that we could do a better job.
So I was just picking up almost. It was.
Yeah, we just saw what was there and we thought we could do a better job, so that's how the inception of the business was. I think my dad also hired a lot of people from different backgrounds, so he hired few civil engineers to help him design the the structures. Then he hired a few mechanical engineers to design the rides. Then a lot of electrical engineers because there's a lot of electricity and that kind of stuff that we have to do. Then water engineering, landscaping. There's a lot of different skills that we needed. So that's how it started. And I think because we were able to, it was successful from day one. I think gave us a lot of confidence that we will do another project. And that's how then the idea of Wonderla in Bangalore came. So because we felt we should do it in a much grander scale. Because what we did in Cochin was not sufficient. And I've studied in Bangalore, lived in Bangalore.
Okay, so that's why Bangalore
I thought Bangalore also doesn't have anything.
Fair, yeah.
Those days, so we thought we'll do it here. So that's how the idea for Wonderla came. And then I was like 25 years old at that time. It was quite daunting also because we had to take a big loan. We had to take like a 50 crore loan.
Okay.
In 2002, I think.
What were these expenses mainly for?
To build the park.
Okay.
So for us, those days, 50 crores was a big number, because if we couldn't pay that back, it could have been very disastrous. So the first time for me, getting into a new business, then taking a large loan and then trying to build something. So that is how it started. And then when we started in Bangalore, I told you, right, we had initially we found it difficult to sell to Bangalore.
Right, yeah.
People were skeptical about the industry.
There's a lot of fear.
Yeah, there was a lot of fear. So, and this is before social media and everything, right? So then how do you convince people that this is something that... also, we couldn't use the Veegaland name because it was a different brand. So it was everything was from like it was like
Operated.
it was like a new business. So
Got it.
so we had to literally build the new brand.
Okay.
And so first 2 years was about building the brand in Bangalore, and then slowly we started getting visitors coming more and more. And then there was the 2008 financial crash that happened.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think the first 3 years was very tough, but after that we saw a lot of growth. And so by 2011, then we thought we're going to do another city. So that's when we thought about initially Bombay, but didn't work out, and then slowly we moved to Hyderabad. So
How did you guys like market yourself or put the word out there or emphasize on how much you guys emphasized on safety over here?
I think safety. So initially, a lot of the ads that we did were focused on safety and hygiene and
Ads, these are what, like TV ads, radio
TV,
ads?
radio,
Okay.
outdoor,
Right.
some
Billboards,
prints
and
and all
such.
that. So that
Okay.
was how we did it. Radio is still new that time. So radio is something that we used a lot. And also we got a lot of TV serials to be shot in the park and stuff like that. So those days it was a very different kind of marketing.
Right.
And yeah, so that's how it started. And then I think over a period of time, I think we got a lot of positive word of mouth, and people started seeing value in what we were doing. And then I think by 2010, I think we reached 1 million footfalls here.
Oh wow.
And then that's when we thought about doing our third project.
Okay.
So, but then again, getting the right property and then building it itself can take a lot of time.
So yeah, so I was just wondering about the break in between your Bangalore opening and your Hyderabad opening, right? I know this was on 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Were you more waiting for the market to be ready for a kind of destination like this? Or was it more about you? Was it taking the business in different?
I think both, because like I said, initially for the first 3 years after we opened Bangalore, we struggled. So, and then we had this big loan to pay off and everything. So I think it took us about 4 years to really get the hang of the business.
Right.
On a larger scale in a bigger city like Bangalore, because this is the first time we were doing it in a new state. And I think 2009 is when we knew that this is also, it's going to be, it's going to be okay. But we looked at Bombay after that. And we actually bought land in Bombay to build a park. But then that land acquisition failed because there was an issue with the land and we had to finally sell that.
Okay.
So that took another 2 years. And then we sold it only in 2011. Then we looked at Hyderabad. And
Got it.
So that whole process itself took a couple of years. And by that time, I think the cost of building the park also had gone up significantly. So we looked at, then instead of taking loans, we wanted to look at equity. So that's when we, in 2012, we thought about doing a park in Hyderabad and Chennai.
Okay.
And that's how we finally then decided to list the company in the stock market.
Okay.
That was in 2012, 13. And finally the IPO happened in 2014. And then 2016, we opened the park. So that whole process took about 3-4 years.
Okay. So was the park opening based off of the IPO itself? Like, was the IPO a reason for more scale and all?
Yeah. So because we didn't want to take large loans, because it would have been difficult for us to service it, because the gestation period in building a park is also large. Now we have been able to shorten it. Like our Bhubaneswar park, we built in 13 months.
Okay.
So
that's
very fast.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen all the time. And the scale of this park is much bigger than Bhubaneswar. So building this will take much more time.
Right.
And then Chennai also, there were some delays. By the time we got the land, it was 2018. So buying the land always takes
takes time, right?
Yeah. Getting the right property, and then but working with the government to get all the approvals. So that also usually takes time. So these are the two big bottlenecks in building the park.
But you just have to wait for more than.
And then there are a lot of approvals that you have to get. Like, for example, it should be a pollution approvals. You need licenses. You need all kinds of safety.
Right.
So all those approvals, we have like 50 different licenses that are.
I'm sure. I mean, like we said, a little city is like food, we sell everything.
Food,
right? So
water,
alcohol for this resort as well, right?
So it's a huge task to get that done.
Right. But okay, so let's say if we had to break down Bangalore's opening or like getting construction of the park, how long did it take, and what was the step-by-step procedure that you guys kind of found out to be the most successful or efficient way?
So first thing we have to do is land.
Yeah.
So that itself takes a lot of time because usually the land that is available will be in more densely populated areas and tends to be more expensive. Whereas we always look at properties which are outside the city but well connected.
Yeah.
So once the land acquisition is done, we usually get the government involved at that point itself because the approvals should come to us relatively faster. And with a completely private transaction, the approvals take even longer. So we usually involve the government in some form into the project. So that's how we do it. And then once we have the land and the basic government approvals, then we start designing the park based on the size of the city and what is the footfall that we can expect. At that point, we also hire an architect or a structural consultant and then start designing the park. And then at the same time, we need to look at what kind of ride, what do we make, what do we buy. So we have to take that decision of build versus buying. And then so that's the time a lot of our engineering team travels a lot to see what are the new rides that are coming out. And so our engineering team is always looking at new technologies, what is coming into this space, which is amusement park space.
So I assume they travel out of India to
so they keep seeing what is happening. Like now there is a lot of focus on VR and VR-based tech rides. So we are looking that kind of rides. But those days it was more roller coasters, and so I think with the times it keeps changing. But still, I think I would say big physical rides are also still a big attraction because those kind of rides you will not see other than in a big park rides.
Yeah, makes sense. And when you were building up Wonderla to the brand it is today, what did the competition look like?
So we always never had direct competition because the scale at which we operated was always bigger than what others did. But I like I said, the business is tricky, so I think it needs a lot of technology and technical knowledge to kind of conceptualize something like this. There were always other parks, but some of them were they were not really direct competition. Some would be only water parks, some would be film-based parks. But not, as a Wonderla-like concept, I don't think we've
an all-in-one kind of this.
Yeah, we've not really seen direct competition. And then I think as the time went by, I think people, because of social media and the internet, I think people figured out that this is something that people could also do.
Yeah.
And by that time, I think our brand was also stronger. So then I think we looked at expansion a little more rapidly. So now we're looking at Bhubaneswar, then Chennai, and then hopefully Delhi and a few other cities.
So north eventually is going to happen.
Yeah, definitely we're going north.
Yeah.
And to the west as well.
Okay.
We want to be in all the tier 1 and some of the tier 2 cities. So that's the goal that we have set for ourselves.
Got it.
But like I said, it's hard to put a timeline on it because some will happen quickly.
And it's unpredictable.
So like for example, Bhubaneswar, the government was so keen that that we come there. They did everything for us. So what would normally take 2 years took us only like 2 months.
Wow. Yeah.
So but not every government functions with that level of efficiency. And at the larger city, the more complex it becomes.
Yeah. But you were talking about having governments getting involved is usually much easier to get things done faster, right? How do they get involved? What are the different ways or options?
So I think most of the governments, state governments, they have a tourism policy and they have something for amusement parks or resorts or, like ecotourism, all those things. So based on that, we pitch the idea to them. And because now we are a bigger brand, a lot of the governments are keen to have this kind of, because it also generates a lot of employment. Here, for example, we have about 800 to 900 people working on any given day, and this is long-term permanent employment. So that is, I think, and also we usually are, like I said, always in the outskirts in some land which is not very, not very valuable from a real estate standpoint.
So you'll have to make it a livable area for the staff as well.
So we have to create our own accommodation for staff. So that's part of the project cost as well. We have almost 25 to 30% of our staff staying in campus. So we have different types of accommodation. in the park, bachelor, family,
Yeah.
small apartments, that kind of stuff.
Right. No, the team is something I'm really, really curious about. But just before we dive into that, I wanted to know, in relation to competition, do you think it's possible that a larger player like a Disney or something would ever come to India and build an amusement park on a large scale?
See, I think the problem in India is infrastructure,
Mm.
as you know, right? Like we find it very difficult to build roads and stuff like that. So I think India is always going to be a infrastructure hungry kind of country,
Right.
because our population is also growing, and the number of people who are moving into our cities is huge. So that's why by the time we build a metro, the metro is no longer sufficient, right?
Yeah.
Or any road that gets built within 2-3 years, it gets filled up.
Yeah.
So infrastructure is always going to be an issue. So to build a park like Disney, you need like square miles of like, I don't know, like 1,000 acres of land, and that kind of land is not available in near a Bombay or a Delhi or a Bangalore.
Right.
And you have to go further away. So which means then you have to create an airport, which means you have to create 5,000 rooms or 10,000 rooms.
So it should be a destination.
Yeah, so you have to create a new one, which I don't know whether India is. I don't think we are there yet in terms of spending that kind of money on, on this kind of infrastructure. It can happen if the central government wishes to do it.
Yeah.
So that's how, like for example, Shanghai Disneyland is owned by the Shanghai government.
Okay, I see.
It's not owned fully by Disney.
Right.
It's owned by the government and Disney.
Okay.
So Disney gives the technology, and Shanghai obviously puts in the money. So that is how they build the parks. Even Japan or Hong Kong, Paris. Paris Disneyland is owned by the Paris government.
Interesting.
So it takes that level of, and it's a much bigger project. Like for example, this will cost us about 500 crores to build in today's money.
Okay.
To build a Disneyland will cost you $3 billion. So that is 24,000 crores. So that's a huge difference in terms of investment. And India is a very value conscious.
True. So I don't think they'd have to be able to sell tickets at that.
We're not going to pay in dollars
100%.
for Disneyland. So I think that's the challenge that we're going to have. So we feel that it's better to have smaller parks like ours in multiple cities because of our infrastructure and a lot of other issues.
Right.
Yeah.
But whether Disney or not, do you think that anytime a large player comes to India with a huge kind of area, do you think that's a good thing for you or a bad thing?
I think it'll be a good thing because it'll expand the market.
Yeah.
Because that will be at a very different price point.
For sure.
And we are at a different price. Our pricing is between 1,000 to 1,500. Whereas that will be maybe in tens of thousands. So I think that'll expand the market and create more awareness for the industry, which I think is a challenge for us because, like I said, this industry needs a lot of regulation and approvals.
Yeah.
So that slows us down a lot. So I think the more players that come in and it creates a more bigger industry out of it. It's always better.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, Arun, another thing I wanted to talk about was the market in India, right? So over the course of decades now, I feel like you've seen India's reception to places like this evolve over time, right? But can you tell me what you learned from it and what your observations were?
So what I've learned from India is that India is a very value conscious market. People want everything for like the lowest price possible, and then they want a discount on top of it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting thing. People like to do everything, and people are, I think, more adventurous now.
Okay.
For example, when we built our first park, we didn't have any thrill rides. So then by the time we came to Bangalore, then we slowly started investing in thrill rides. Then we started buying roller coasters and things like that. So now I think it's come to a point where people want everything that's available abroad. Like, like they want the best. But then
people are more well-traveled.
Or even if they don't travel, at least they can see it on Instagram.
Yeah, true.
What's happening in other parts of the world. So I think the expectations are high, but I think extremely value conscious. So I think, so that is the challenge for us. So I think we need to have cost efficient, very amusement parks to be built. That's what I think will work. Market is huge. I think India is the largest population under. Our median age is 35, and more. I think 40% of our population is under 35. So that I think is one of the few countries which has that. Even China doesn't have
a young population.
Yeah. So I think because of that, I think there is definitely a market for this. But having said that, we are still a we're still, I think, 142nd in terms of our GDP. We're still a developing economy. So I think keeping that in mind and then tailoring your offering to that, I think you can have a huge market.
Interesting. So now the topic that I was like very curious and interested to know about is how you manage the staff for the entire team behind Wonderla.
Yeah, so I think because we are a large organization with many departments, I think setting the right kind of expectations from people from day one is very important. And we don't have any margin for errors.
Right.
So we are very strict when it comes to adherence to safety, all the policies, that way we are kind of rigid and also in terms of some of those things that we enforce. But at the same time, we want people to be flexible. Like I said, every state is different and people work a little differently. So the head of each project, each park has a GM level person who heads the project. So he's literally the CEO of one entity and he kind of controls everything. Okay. So the buck stops with him. So that we have that kind of a system.
You saying Bangalore 800, 900 people now that are full time over here, and half of which stay in campus, you said, is it?
I think 30% of the people kind of stay in campus because there's also always work going on even in the night sometimes, and maintenance, landscaping and all that. Because we are open from 11 a.m. till like 7, 8 p.m. The only time we can do maintenance is after park hours. So it tends to be in the night or early in the morning.
Right.
So that's when we do a lot of our maintenance. We have a large engineering team. We have a large housekeeping and security. So there are different departments. Some of them are the engineering and all is pretty much our own stuff. But housekeeping and security is outsourced.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are different departments that work together. Yeah. So
what does the breakup look like? Very average, rough breakup.
Yeah, so I think we have about 40% of the employees will be on roll.
Okay.
60% will be services like your security and other services which are outsourced.
Okay.
So we deal with the vendor and like a security company and they deal with it.
Okay.
They deal with the staffing. And of course, I mean, we have our own guidelines on what kind of people and, all the statutory things we take care. But the rest of it is outsourced.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about the challenges of maintaining so many people or accommodating so many people in one area?
I think it's not been very hard because I think the industry is a fun industry. People like working in an amusement park.
Yeah. It's a fun place. Let them ride every now and then.
Yeah, I think once a year we give them a park day. They get to enjoy with their family.
Right.
And sometimes we for some of our other stuff they have like an outing. They go out somewhere and we celebrate every festival. So they get to, the annual day for us is big. So I think there's a lot of fun that they have. So we have very low attrition. We don't have people leaving. We have people who working here from day one. We still have even people like a lot of housekeeping staff, etc., who are not directly our employees, but they love working here. So they end up
nearly 20 years now.
20 years.
Wow.
So I think that gives us a lot of comfort and joy.
That makes sense. Anything special planned for the 20th year anniversary?
Yeah, so we are building this new ride. I don't know whether you can see that white thing sticking out.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's our new virtual ride. It's a giant LED screen, about 5 floors high.
Oof. Wow.
And so the ride, there's a mechanical ride that goes into it, and then you feel like you're in space because you're completely surrounded by a high resolution screen.
Right.
And then it moves, and it's like a virtual roller coaster.
Okay.
So that's the new ride that's coming.
It's a flat LED screen, is it?
It's not flat. It's like a curved parabolic screen.
Oh wow!
So you don't feel like it's a screen. Right. It actually feels real.
Right. So this is some of the VR kind of experience.
Yeah. So that's a new one that's coming. So
cool.
For the 20th year, hopefully we'll be ready to launch it.
Really cool.
So the screen technology comes from Taiwan.
Okay.
And the machine comes from Italy. But the design is ours. So it's quite a complex project.
How
it's going to cost us about 30 crores to build it.
This alone?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. How do you go about deciding what additions to bring into these existing parks? Because I think you were mentioning there are 2 more rides coming to the Hyderabad park sometime soon as well.
I think we look at feedback, what we get from guests, like what do they want. And also we look at all the new technology that, like I said, we go to see a lot of shows abroad. Every year there's this huge show that happens in Orlando, and Orlando is like the mecca of amusement park. Disney, they're all there.
Yeah.
So in fact, I'm going next month for that.
Nice.
So every year you get to see a lot of new stuff. And lately what is happening is there's a lot of focus on this kind of screen technology.
Yeah.
Like you've seen the Las Vegas sphere.
Yeah.
So that's a very similar technology. So it's very realistic, high resolution, like 8K images or 12K images you want. So you need special cameras to shoot it, the content, or you have to render it using special computers. So you have to make your own content for it.
It's a whole challenge of its own.
Yeah.
How often do you make it a point to travel and look for these new references in the market?
At least once a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so far, the go-to place I understand is the US. Where
US between US and Europe.
Okay.
But now there's a lot of stuff coming from China and Taiwan, because I think a lot of the VR tech is from the East.
Right.
And so because that is always, I think the making of the screens is, I think, more advanced in the East. So,
I mean, when you're considering all of these new additions to the parks, I think I'm pretty sure one of the main concerns for you guys is safety, right? How safe these are, and or how risky these machines could be as well, right? But how do you guys look at it, in what perspective?
So we look at it like that. I mean, that we want zero incidents on any particular ride. So whatever we do is with that goal in mind. Sometimes it's not possible to have zero incidents. Like people can get hurt on something. They could. So we have a very detailed system of recording even the smallest incidents or near misses, as we call it. And then based on that, we keep evolving the kind of foolproofing or mistake proof. Even an operator, even if he makes a mistake, how can you prevent him from making that mistake again when he's operating the ride? So that's the kind of philosophy everybody follows in our industry. And it's a bit like the airline industry. We also get outside agencies like TUV to come and
assess.
Audit the rides and the procedures. So every few years, every ride gets audited again. And every year or every few years, we take apart every ride to its smallest parts and then rebuild it. So that any small thing, even if there's a chance of something breaking, we can we can take it out before it becomes a problem.
Right.
So in that sense, we follow what an airline industry also follows. But it's been good, and I think we're still learning. There's a lot of there's, like I said, the technology keeps changing, and now there is also a lot of IoT based things that are coming into it. So we are actually piloting an IoT based preventive maintenance system for our roller coasters.
Okay.
So that will be ready next year.
Cool.
So stuff like that. It's again something that keeps evolving and changing.
Yeah, I think I was talking to one of the ride operators this morning, and I was asking, what exactly is the process, and he was telling me how there's a daily maintenance that happens in the morning before the park opens as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of checks that you do daily.
Right.
There are some checks that you do weekly, some monthly, some quarterly, yearly, stuff like that. So it's like a maintenance program. We actually have a software to track it.
Oh, okay. So Arun, when you think about making changes to the mark or optimizations, improvements or anything, do you also look at the analytics of each ride? And if so, how do you track these?
We record the number of cycles that every ride goes through, and the number of people, so that we are tracking it. But what we don't have is to see how accurately how many people are waiting in line and all that.
Okay.
So we are trying to see whether we can have this system using cameras. I think nowadays it's possible to accurately do that.
Yeah.
So we're doing a pilot on that. If that's successful, then slowly we should. So once we have that, we should be able to have heat maps.
Yeah, I was just gonna which part of the park,
which part of the park will be busy and try to avoid it, and then eventually, hopefully, maybe an app or something where you can give that to the guests so that they can also use that. Also, we can also use that to sell fast track tickets or a pass for a particular ride. Like if you want a fast track ticket only for Recoil, you don't want fast track for anything else, we should be able to sell that. Right now, we can't do that.
Right.
But we're trying to see whether we can do that.
How popular are the fast track tickets, by the way? What Is there a conversion?
10% of
Okay,
footfall is fast track.
10%.
But that's the only capacity that we can do also.
Oh,
We can't do more than.
Otherwise, it start queuing up.
Yeah, then that becomes a bigger queue.
So do you put a limit on that as well?
Yeah, 10%.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, so that happens. The other thing that we are trying to do from a customer experience standpoint is to see whether we can do more cashless using a QR code or a RFID system, so that people don't have to carry their wallet,
Right.
stuff inside the park. Because anyway, when you go on the rides, you can't carry all those things.
Right. Yeah, I saw the staff use that technology, the RFIDs, to scan for their meal and all of that.
So we have an older version of it running right now, but we're trying to see whether we can get to the next version of it.
Understood.
So these are some of the things. Also analytics in terms of, like you said, ride usage and downtimes. From a maintenance angle also.
Okay.
We are piloting it for our roller coaster where we can see how the ride is functioning, what is the next maintenance that is likely to happen for this, and whether we can preempt it, because before something happens, we can predict what happens to it.
Right.
Also from a CRM standpoint, we are also working on to see how we can give customers more data in terms of, prompt people to come more often, give special offers, all those things as well.
That's another segment I'm interested about, right? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how deep hospitality is in amusement parks, right? Because you're selling rooms, you're selling entertainment,
lot of
tickets
F&B
as well, F&B restaurants. You have
merchandise. We sell costumes,
right?
People wear stuff. People buy souvenirs, all kinds of things. Yeah.
But yeah, like going one by one, right? So let's say, for example, on the F&B front, right? How do you manage? How do you cater to the people coming into the park?
So we have we have all different types of F&B because from our experience, we know that this is what sells and this is what doesn't sell. But we also constantly keep changing in terms of, like, for example, during the mango season, we'll have a lot of mango related stuff, ice cream or like smoothies and all that. And during festivals like Christmas, we'll have like Christmas cake and stuff like that. So I think it's very season based approach that we take. We celebrate all festivals. Like Halloween is now becoming big. We want to celebrate Halloween, so we need to have merch for that. So those are the things that we are trying to do more and more. It's getting more and more complicated and complex every year because the number of festivals and the things that people like to, like Women's Day is a big thing. We didn't know like few years back then people want to come out on Women's Day for that. So I think it's people's preferences are slowly changing, but we are also getting to know what people like, and then based on that we can also prepare our team so that they bring the right kind of merchandise or food out.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But when we look at Wonderla as a business, right, because you're having so many different offerings, right, and you're selling through the form of tickets, through the form of different experiences as well, can you break down the different types of, say, the business models there are in Wonderla, and maybe give me a breakdown on where things clock the most revenue, perhaps?
So majority of our revenue, almost 75% comes from ticket sales. Different types of ticket sales, mostly park tickets, including your fast track and everything.
Are there season tickets, by the way?
We don't have season ticket, but slowly I think we are going to get into that as well, like a loyalty program thing. Then we have non-ticket revenue, which is about 25%. The resort actually comes under that non-ticket revenue. That includes mostly F&B, so about half of that is F&B, and then the other half is merchandise and resort and those kind of revenue. But the resort revenue, we feel that is something that can grow faster. Only thing is, right now we only have 84 keys in this resort, so we're trying to add another 40 keys, so that we can, and also a lot of there's also a lot of scope for events and so that also comes under non-ticket revenue. Right now we use events as a marketing tool, not as revenue. Even though we get some revenue from it, but it's not really significant enough for us to say that it's a revenue maker. It's more of a marketing. Like we do have concerts, and, like some music, live music.
You do those over here as well.
Sometimes at the resort, sometimes at the park.
Cool.
So so these are some of the things that we do. F&B, we run most of the outlets ourselves.
Right.
Even merchandise, most of the outlets are run by us. There are a few third-party vendors who run maybe like some specialized merchandise, or like some of our skill games and that are run by outside people, where then we do a revenue share with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. When people approach you for, let's say, a space or a stall over here, what are the different types of offerings that they would usually come with? Is it more food, like food product
I mean,
oriented?
food, and so food itself, there are two types, which is like, one is like the food that we serve in the restaurants.
Yeah.
Then there's stuff like popcorn and like, candy floss,
I don't know.
all
Yeah.
the things which are quick. And then drinks is a big thing, like, like soft drinks, all different types of soft drinks,
Okay.
packed foods.
Right.
Then photography and souvenirs, like people want ride photography, like, GoPros from photographs from the rides. So all that comes in the merchandise as well.
Right. But you're saying ticketed revenue takes up about 75%.
75, but it's slowly growing. Like now, I think this year it'll be 70-30.
Okay.
30% will be non-ticket.
Okay.
But every year we see the non-ticket revenues are growing faster.
What are you guys doing to grow that?
So like I said, we keep changing the offerings. We have more value-added offerings. We sometimes try and bundle the food, and especially for large groups, because then it gives them more choice also. Like some people who are very particular that they want this kind of food for a certain group. So basically more customizable options, which we didn't have before. So that is helping us drive more non-ticket revenue.
Interesting. Okay. And apart from F&B, what other avenues are there to look at non-ticketed revenue? Is there something you haven't explored yet that you were considering?
So I think there's a lot of things that we can still do. Like we can have customized souvenirs. We do have some of it, but I think there's a lot more that can be done in that whole space. So yeah, we're working on that slowly. And I think as our brand goes to newer locations and becomes more of a national brand, I think the avenues to even sell outside, sell online, all those things will improve.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few differences that I noticed from, let's say, amusement parks that I saw outside of India. One being, say, the parking, right? Parking, I see in other parks as a huge source of non-ticketed revenue, right? But I noticed over here it's free.
We don't charge right now. So internally, we keep having this debate on what we should give as an offering to our customers. And historically, we've never charged for parking. And we feel that just adds one more layer of a queue, for people to stand in.
Okay.
So one of the things that we want to do is reduce the number of queues that people stand in, and that's what they like about our parks. So we consciously made that decision that some of these things we are not going to charge, because we can add that to the ticket cost, and it's still kind of we're trying to reduce the number of points where people have to stand in.
Right. Fair enough.
But eventually, maybe like once the FASTag system becomes more seamless, I think we can start charging. Or maybe if the area becomes more urban and the parking becomes more valuable, at that point we will start charging.
Yeah, you see a lot of those new sensors in parking lots that
it can be done. As of now, we are not doing it, but this is not. We have thought about it, and we just consciously didn't do it.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, we are a very we focus on the middle and upper middle class kind of crowd.
Right.
So for them, I think everything matters. So wherever possible, we would like to reduce. Keep it as value conscious for them as well. At the same time, not hurting our revenue prospects. So we need to strike that balance.
So do you think people would be more accepting if you increase the ticket prices by 50 rupees and instead of adding a 50 rupee parking?
So that's what we do.
Right.
We feel that is the better strategy
to go about it.
Because instead of adding one more, we don't want to inconvenience people more than they need to. And imagine having one big queue outside the park
as well. Yeah.
Because every time you have to, when you're leaving, then that's when you pay the parking. So every time when you get out of a mall or going into the mall,
people want to leave early.
Yeah. So I feel I feel that's annoying.
Fair.
So I'm trying to remove annoyances wherever possible.
Yeah. Interesting. And other forms of non-ticketed revenue, say, for example, in the States, I believe they sell liquor in some parts of the park as well and such. Is that not allowed here, or is that just a conscious choice from your behalf?
So like in Karnataka, we are not allowed to sell alcohol in an amusement park. It's
Okay.
there in the laws.
Okay.
Some states allow, like for example in Bhubaneswar, if you want, we can do it.
Okay.
Or in Hyderabad, we can do it. But in Kerala, it's not allowed.
Go on.
And neither it is in Karnataka. So I think it's a state thing. Every state, it varies.
Mm-hmm.
We have again consciously decided not to do that because I think it creates a lot of law and order situation. We do sometimes have day licenses for alcohol. Like if you're having an event and we want to serve alcohol, we can do that. But usually post park hours.
Okay.
For some special event, like some DJ or some concert or something that happens, we do that occasionally. Or if it's like a New Year party or something like that.
Right.
But at that point, the rides will not be functioning.
Right.
So that's how we have done it.
How does it work procuring a day license, right?
That is for events, you are allowed to in a public place you can get a day license for alcohol. Yeah, and you have to pay like 50,000 or 1 lakh depending on the size of the crowd.
Right.
You have to pay a fee and then you can serve alcohol.
But it's open to anyone. Anyone can.
Yeah. I think you can
a day license that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And do you usually require these these licenses for the different events that you do over here?
Yeah, every time we do a event, because we are selling, if it's a ticketed event, that needs a license.
Right.
And then usually somebody from the local administration will come and see whether there's fire safety, you need to have, there's a lot of things that you need to follow, especially if you're expecting a large crowd, a few thousand people, then they want to make sure that there are clear entry and exit points, there is an ambulance, or if there's a medical emergency, how do you manage that? So all those things. And even otherwise, we have an ambulance and we have a full first aid thing just in case somebody gets hurt. But for ticketed events, it is mandatory.
Got it. Yeah, I have just one more question now, and that is the revenue, but it's a kind of weird segment, so we'll just edit it towards whenever it's relevant. But yeah, I think almost 20 years later since its opening, Bangalore now, how successful is this place now? Like, if we talk about it on the numbers.
So last year we did 500 crores of top line and 250 crores of bottom line. So it's quite a profitable business, but it's not a business that will grow. It's not like a tech business which it grows, it can double every year and stuff like that. Because we literally have to physically build infrastructure every time we want to grow. So I think the growth of the business comes from now for us from new markets and new like non-ride, like you said, like all these events and things that we do. So that's why we are trying to see whether we can, grow to new markets. So yeah, growth is definitely possible, but I think it takes a lot of effort.
Right.
For group.
Yeah, especially on an operational level. Before you decide you want to grow even as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So was this on a group level, these numbers, like the entire group from across all four?
All four parks, yeah.
Okay.
So Bangalore did I think about for 200 crores last year.
Is that the highest?
Around that was probably the highest that it did last year. But I think there is a significant jump in our revenues post-COVID because I think people are willing to spend more on experiences and also digital marketing suits us better than traditional marketing. So we're able to reach the right kind of audience better. So these are some of the factors. Right. And also I think our offering, as you saw, it keeps changing. We keep adding stuff. Yeah. So I think we've gone a little more up market every year. So we're able to charge a higher fee.
Okay. And how do you set that price? What goes into setting that price?
So we look at multiplex pricing. So multiplex, you go to watch a movie, you pay like 300, 400 rupees. Yeah. For like a 2-hour movie. Yeah. So for a full day, what would you spend then? You just look at that and then come up with the price. So it's around 1,200 to 1,400 kind of pricing right now that we are doing. And it varies from market to market. Like a tier 2 city, obviously, will be priced slightly lower. Yeah. But Bangalore is among the top 5 cities in India. So obviously our pricing is higher.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, okay, that's, I think, how we'd like to end every episode is starting off. Sorry, what happened? That's time. No, I don't know. So, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was lovely
we,
chatting.
before we wrap things up, we like to do a little rapid fire segment towards the end,
Sure.
where we'll just basically throw a few questions at you and see where your head's at.
Sure.
So, yeah, whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead.
I'm ready. Fire away.
Perfect. So, Arun, you ready for the rapid fire?
Yes.
All right. So, first question is regarding your travels to amusement parks. You've been to so many around the world now. Does
Yeah.
anyone take the number one spot?
My favorite park is Universal's Islands of Adventure, which is in Florida. I think it's just one of the best themed parks. They have my favorite coaster, the Hulk coaster. Then they have the Transformer ride. They have the Spider-Man ride. They have some really...
So next, which is an industry that you would like to explore next in terms of starting your next business?
I think the gamification of rides is something that's going to happen. So I think I would like to get into gaming or virtual gaming or something of that sort is what I think is interesting to me. That is within the amusement park realm.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm passionate about cars. So I want to do something, in terms of something to do with cars and racing or something like that. I don't know. I still haven't thought of it much. But yeah, that.
Cool. What was your most memorable moment in doing the process of creating Wonderla?
The most memorable moment definitely is the day we opened Bangalore, almost 19 years ago now. I think it, for a long time, the number of hurdles that we had to cross and, there were a lot of issues before we opened, starting with getting approvals to, even having the chief guest actually confirm and say, because we had to call the chief minister to open the park, and then he eventually initially he refused because he was traveling or something, and then finally he decided to come. So I think a lot of those kind of things made it very, very tricky, and then but at the last moment everything fell in place. So it's still very memorable even though it's 19 years ago.
That's really nice to hear that. What is your favorite ride in any of the Wonderla parks today?
My favorite ride is Recoil, the roller coaster, because I think it's even though it's not a very big roller coaster, the kind of thrills that it gives you, it's among the most thrilling and scary.
That's the backward loop.
Yeah, because you go forwards and then you go backwards.
Okay,
So it's a special ride.
What is your dream concept ride?
I think the Transformer ride in Universal is one of my favorite rides because it combines a roller coaster and a fast-moving ride with virtual reality and 3D movies. So I remember taking my son to Universal for the first time, and he was younger, and I think he felt like he was in the Transformer movie, and so I think that hyper realism of some of those rides, along with the thrill, I think it just makes it very special. So we would like to bring rides like that to Wonderla also soon, but they're very expensive to design and build.
What is your comfort food? Something that you would eat on a daily basis?
My comfort food is scrambled eggs. That's what I eat every day.
Is that what you had?
Yeah. I mean, I just like, I like eggs. So I like non-veg, but generally eggs is something I always liked. And so,
do you often go out to eat in Bangalore?
Yeah, quite a bit. I go to all the new restaurants every time there's some new stuff open. So I end up going quite a bit.
That's good. And last question: what is the record number of visits done to Wonderla in a single year?
I think I was told, I'm not sure of the number, but I've told that somebody visited Wonderla 25 times in a year.
In a single year?
Yeah.
So that's like twice a month.
Twice a month, yeah. That's, I think. Because I think, I think he had a discount card or something, and then he ended up coming multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have those in circulation, like discount?
We had it pre-COVID, but now we are trying to do a newer version of it.
Okay.
So I think we'll relaunch it by the end of the year.
So that membership cards are also coming in, loyalty programs and all that.
Yeah. So we're trying to do that as well. We will relaunch that soon.
Right. So this segues into my last question for you. Where do you think, which direction is Wonderla headed in the next 5 years?
So we want to become a national brand. Right now we are only in South Indian states, except Bhubaneswar is the first one in the east. But eventually we want to cover all geographies. And like I said, we want to get into more tech-related, tech-based rides and attractions. Maybe take Wonderla outside Wonderla, and people can get a slice of Wonderla in their own home or in their neighborhood in some fashion. Again, these are all new, small. These are very early ideas at this point, but we want to be able to take Wonderla outside Wonderla, and so that people get to see it and enjoy a slice of the thrill that without coming all the way and spending the whole day. So
Interesting.
those are some of the things that we are thinking of.
Some samples, some quick
I
taste
don't
of
know.
what
We
Wonderla
still have to
will do.
figure that out yet.
I mean, it's a really fun business, it seems like, right? There's a lot of innovation when it comes to this and a lot of guest experience focused things that you need to consider.
Yeah.
But all in the realm of like, it's fun.
It's like, so I think what we do is we sell lasting memories. I think you yourself told me that you remember some of your Wonderla trips.
I do.
These are the days when you really had a blast in your life.
Yeah.
So I find it very kind of, I'm very grateful that I'm able to do something like that for a lot of people. So, but of course we want to do more.
I'm sure.
So that's how it is.
And any plans for outside of India anytime?
We've got a lot of opportunities from Middle East and like Sri Lanka and stuff like that. But we feel the opportunity within the country is big enough for us to kind of, so we want to focus on that.
Right.
But eventually, yes, we will definitely look outside as well.
Yeah, I'd be looking forward to that. Taking the Wonderla brand outside
the
of
country.
India.
So definitely looking forward to that.
Lovely. Well, no, thanks so much, Arun. It was
lovely chatting.
Conversation.
And hope we can chat again soon and come to our park, maybe do something.
I was already talking with our team. We were going to do a team outing here for sure.
Yeah.
Next week or two. We will definitely be here. Yeah.
Please do that.
No, but I had a lovely time talking with you. That was great.
Chatting.
Thank you so much, Arun.
Thanks.